and welcome back to the Graceful Tangle YouTube channel. I'm Emmy Kate, a young but passionate knitter and crocheter. You can find all of the links to my various social media platforms in the description box below, so be sure to go follow me over on there if you're interested. And of course, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, go ahead and do that. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you can know each and every time I upload a new video. Alrighty guys, I am so excited to be back with you guys today because I'm going to be chatting all about my finished Scrappy blanket. So before we go any further, I think it is necessary for me to finally show it off to you guys. All finished. Oh my goodness. So here it is. I am just so in love with this blanket. I'm probably going to be finding little bitty ends for as long as I have it, because that's just the way it goes. When you make something with this many colors, you're going to find a few random ends forever. So yeah, I mean, there is not a good way for me to show you how big this thing really is, but I'm going to be inserting some pictures at the end, so be sure to stay tuned for those. It's amazing, y'all. I love it so much. It's worth every single stitch to have a big blanket with all of these memories. I just love it so much. So I'm going to give you all the details on what I did, how I crocheted this blanket. I will be having a tutorial come out soon on how to crochet your own Scrappy blanket, because I think that is I just think it's a really awesome thing to make, and it's such a great way to house all of those memories from those little balls of yarn that you have laying around everywhere, just like I do, I'm sure. So stay tuned for that tutorial because it will be coming soon, but for now I just want to talk about a few of the details. If you are a seasoned crocheter, you will probably be able to start your own just from this information, but again, I will have a tutorial coming out soon. So firstly, if you aren't familiar with Scrappy projects and Scrappy blankets, let me give you a little bit of a backstory. So, Scrappy Sunday was something that was originally started by Kay over at the Crazy Sock Lady podcast and YouTube channel. I absolutely love watching all of her videos. She is such an inspiration, and I have learned so much from her and can't wait to continue to learn. But she originally started this, and at first I actually wasn't participating. I was just kind of gaining inspiration from her. She makes so many different Scrappy Sunday projects. She has socks and a shawl right now I think she's working on, multiple blankets. She's made a corner to corner blanket like this and a Cozy Memories blanket. Both are just absolutely gorgeous. So it's just really fun to be able to watch what she's up to on Sundays and, you know, every other day, but specifically on Scrappy Sunday. It's super fun to kind of see what she's working on. So during 2020, I decided that I wanted to start participating in Scrappy Sunday because I realized that I had so many scraps, and I just wasn't going to use them. I didn't have a project in mind at the time. I had the idea to make a bunch of little things, but then I realized that I just wasn't going to have time for that. So I decided to start this corner to corner blanket, using all of those little scraps of yarn and make just one big thing using them all. Now in reality, I have so many scraps left. I don't know if they'll ever be gone. So I will be making another Scrappy blanket for sure. However, for this blanket, I decided I wanted to do the corner to corner style. Now, I've talked about before on the reasons I chose this style, but in short, I just really thought it was going to flatter my scraps the most. It was going to look great no matter what colors I used. It was going to look great no matter what pattern I did in terms of like manipulating the colors to make them look better or trying to come up with a specific design. It was going to look good no matter what. The other option that I had in mind was a granny stripe blanket, but I've already made a few granny stripe blankets, and while I 100% intend on doing a Scrappy granny stripe, I wanted to do something a little bit unique. I have actually made a corner to corner blanket before, way back when I first started podcasting. I showed off a blanket that I was in the process of making and then finished for my brother, and that was the first like real large corner to corner blanket that I made. But this one is for me, and it is using all of my scraps, and it is so beautiful to just be able to look down at it in my lap and see all of the wonderful wonderful colors and all of the memories that they have just from previous projects that I made with those yarns, or where I got it, or why I got it. Every single little ball has a little, or every single color, I guess I should say, has a little memory attached to it, and some of them are good memories, and every now and then you'll have a bad memory. But it's just absolutely amazing to be able to kind of have that attachment with something that you made. So again, I did the corner to corner crochet method. Now I did use primarily worsted weight yarn. So ever since I started knitting and crocheting about 6 years ago, I have definitely used worsted weight yarn the most. I have used fingering and the finer weights as well as the bulky weights more often recently in the past maybe 3 years. But for those first 3 to 4 years, I definitely used almost exclusively worsted weight just because the price point was the best in my eyes. It was readily available. I could get it at most big box stores, and it was, in my non-existent 12 and 13-year-old's budget. So that's definitely what I used the most of. It's also what I was gifted the most, so it's just what I used, and that's totally okay. But that meant that I had worsted weight scraps instead of fingering weight scraps, or the other maybe more common weights. So I decided to go with that, and I chose a size J crochet hook and just did a corner to corner double crochet blanket using the C2C style. Again, I will have a tutorial coming out soon, so stay tuned for that. But that's what I did. Now I did also play around with other weights. I have a few bulky weights in here. I have a few like kind of crazy textures. I just started to kind of have fun and kind of make it almost like a work of art, like how make it intentionally crazy, intentionally all over the place, and just have fun instead of trying to put these certain colors together. Now, in hindsight, well, I shouldn't say that. I absolutely love the blanket exactly how it is, and I will not change a single thing about it. Now, in the future, if I were to have, like, a whole bunch of, like, all different purple scraps, then I would totally make a purple scrappy blanket with all of those different shades of purple. I think that would be so fun. Definitely something that I would want to do, but that's something that just wasn't practical for the time being. So I didn't do that. I chose to make it intentionally all over the place, and I'm so happy I did. So I have some of my like absolute favorite colors in here. This color is my favorite color of all time, and it's in the blanket. Well, I guess one of my favorite colors. It's so hard to pick just one, but I also have mustard in here in multiple places, and that's another thing that I really love. I love how every color is different, but there's also multiple grays, multiple blues, multiple oranges, etc. And I really, really like the way that they all look together. Let's see, what other yarns do I have in here? I have this gray, which is some Bravo Bulky. It's one of my absolute favorites. I made my brother's blanket out of that. Let's see, I made a few beanies actually out of this blue. This is some I Love This yarn from Hobby Lobby. I have actually, so funny story, I originally designed my Genesis Messy Bun beanie with that yarn a long time ago, so it's super special to kind of have that memory attached to it. And then this mustard is what I have based the entire Genesis collection off of. This white, I made a bunny out of this as a gift for somebody. Let's see, I have multiple yarns in here that I used for test knits. So whenever I look at those, I remember those test knits and those kind of that time in my life and what I was making at the time. I have some like this yarn. This purple is actually an alpaca bulky weight, and I got it at a yarn store that has now closed. But I put that in there as just a little memory. I made a messy bun beanie for a commission out of this yarn, and that's all I had left. So it's fun to have that in there. So it's kind of just a really exciting way to compile all of these little balls of yarn that you don't really have another purpose for into one big work of art. And that was my entire goal with this project. And I'm so happy that I did it and that I completed it. In all honesty, I wanted to complete it in 2020, but that just didn't quite happen. I did work on this almost exclusively on Sundays. However, this past week I was determined to finish it, and so I worked on it throughout the week. And I don't regret that at all. I think it's exactly what I wanted to do, and looking back to see how much time I spent on it this past week, I'm really glad that I made that decision, because it wasn't going to be done for a long time if I exclusively worked on it on Sundays, just because I do other things on Sundays too, so I can't put all of my time into one thing. Now, one decision that I decided to make, and that just makes the whole blanket that much more special, is the border. So it's super simple. I just did a single crochet border around the entire blanket when it was done. However, I used Knit Picks Forever Bulky in the color Dove Heather. Now, if you aren't familiar with this colorway, I have a Throwback Thursday video all about my Obligado blanket, which is a blanket that I knit using that Forever Bulky yarn in the color Dove Heather. That blanket has such like a powerful memory for me. It was the hardest thing that I had ever made at the time. It was my first time following a knitted chart. I had received that yarn as a Christmas gift, and it was an extremely daunting project, but a huge turning point in my knit and crochet career. As I knit that blanket, I kind of grew to love knitting complicated things and taking on new challenges and learning these new stitches. And it was just a huge turning point. You see that blanket all the time in the background of my Instagram posts, and I use it daily as a blanket, and it's a decorative piece in my room. So to finish off this blanket with the leftovers of that yarn was just the perfect way to finish it off. It just kind of made the whole thing complete. It's also, of course, my favorite gray, and so I love that part about it as well. And I had just enough to do an entire single crochet border around all 4 edges. So I love this blanket so much. I'm so happy that it is finally done. It is huge. It's amazing. It is way taller than I am, which, yes, I realize this isn't saying much, but this blanket is ginormous. So yeah, I absolutely love this blanket. I highly encourage you to make your own Scrappy blanket if that's something you'd be interested in. Again, I will have a tutorial coming out soon, so stay tuned for that. And I'm going to insert a bunch of pictures of this blanket all finished in just a minute, so stay tuned for those. Thank you so very much for watching. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and let me know in the comments below if you have made a Scrappy project or if you plan to. I think it's just such a huge inspiration and such a great way to showcase all of these memories. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye!